Hello, welcome to Wirral Footy Talk. Today's special guest is Simon Lewis. He's a goal scoring legend from the Wirral. He's been all round different clubs around the Wirral, and now we're going to have a great interview with him. So, welcome to the show, Si.
Nice to meet you, Jace.
How you doing, mate?
Good. Yeah, just fed up a lockdown, but just want the football back.
That's it. We all want the football back, don't we, mate?
Certainly do.
And what have you been doing with yourself while you've been in lockdown? Just work?
Work, yeah, basically. Couldn't do much else. Obviously trying to shield G as much as I can, my wife, because obviously she's got health problems. So let's see, work, home, shopping, bits and pieces around the house. That's about it, really. Nothing else I can do. All my life just revolves around football and going to watch Liverpool. So can't do it at the moment. So gutted.
Oh, brilliant, mate. Yeah, but it'll be back soon, won't it? Be back soon. Yeah, let's hope. Fingers crossed. Mate, yeah. So, Si, you're a goal scorer, centre forward for anyone who doesn't know you, but most people in the football family on the Wirral will know who you are and certainly come across you at some point.
Yeah.
Scored a lot of goals, so we'll get straight into it. Okay. Where did it all start, mate?
Probably as a little toddler, really. My dad, as soon as I could walk, my dad had me over at Anfield, watching Keegan, Toshack, that was the team, and just smitten with football from that. So every time my dad said football straight away, first thing I'd pick up of the morning, football, go and play, and that's where it started really, until I got to most sort of school age. There was nothing like little kids teams like there is now then. It was just your first sort of team was your school team. So let's see, Bitston Avenue was where the first football team.
So you started off in Biddy Ave?
Yeah. And luckily we had a good team there when I first went into Bitston Avenue, but we had a couple of lads move into the school from the Ford and the Woodchurch. Yeah. And they were all top players as well. And luckily we just had a team at that time that went on, and we didn't get beaten for 3 years of being there. So winning everything, every cup, every league, we done really well.
Were you scoring goals still then?
Yeah, I was like you said to you, I was playing more as a left winger than as a striker at the time. I was young and quick and 3 stone ago. So I enjoy playing left wing. To be honest, it sounds silly, but I actually enjoyed that side of it more than the striker side of it. Which a lot of people will say the other way around, but you can get a bit isolated sometimes as a striker. Whereas in midfield, you can get a little bit more involved, but. Saying that, I like scoring goals as well.
Just like scoring goals. Yeah. Who were any lads that you can mention who you were playing with then? Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't know if you know the lads off for the States. Did you know the Duggans? Yeah, played with Chrissy Duggan and Martin Lewis. Yeah. Martin Lewis from the Woodchurch.
Oh, we know Martin well, mate.
really good player, Martin. He was a top player, actually. Yeah, he really was a top player. But a lot of the lads I played with in that team, a lot of them were good at that age and didn't really progress. I found it the other way as well, where you get certain players who are quite average at that age and then they grow into really good players. And so from that team, not many of them went on and played at a decent level, which is a bit surprising, really.
So you're at Bitston Ave. From where did you go? Is that's your junior school, obviously, yeah? Yeah. So then did you go to what high school did you go to?
Well, I went to Park High, which wasn't a football school, it was a rugby school.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a big rugby school part, and I love rugby as well, so I was playing for the school rugby team as well.
Chasing the egg?
Oh, I actually loved it, because it was because I like to play quite aggressively, so it's one of those sports where you can be as aggressive as you want, and the referee never gets on your case, does he? So it's, I enjoyed it. But how I stayed into the football really was the lads in Biddy Ave, who come from Biddy Ave, from the Ford and the Woody, they were involved with the Shaftesbury Boys Club, and they said to me, you got to come and play with the Shafts, and that's when I started about 10 or 11 at the Shafts, and we just had a great team.
Is that where it started getting a little bit more serious, competitive?
Yeah, because we had such a good side. You had to be a good player to keep your place, and all those lads off the estates, they could all play, and so I enjoyed that side of it. All my mates I hung around with around Clawton, they like football, but they weren't particularly good at it. So to get a load of friends who were good at it, and then that's how I got into the Shafts really, and just took it from there really.
Was it a successful team, the Shafts?
Unbelievable, mate. Yeah, I think from the age of 10 to 18, we won the league every single year. We won the Cheshire Cup every single year, apart from 1 year. It was crazy, really. We played, I think it was a team called Bev Rangers. I don't even know if they're going anymore. But we beat them 10-0 in the league. And then a week later we played them in Cheshire Cup and he beat us.
And he beat you?
Yeah, I'm like, how does that work?
Did you get the goal?
No. I think I'd have made a stop on me. I thought, how could we beat them 10-0 and then go and lose 2-1 in the cup final? But that's cup finals for you. And I think that was the only Cheshire Cup we lost in all that time. Like.
Wow, that's a good record though, isn't it?
Yeah, as a youth team.
So what actually made you get into football, Si?
I just loved it. Just loved it. It's one of those, you can't really put a proper answer on it, can you? It's just, as soon as I could walk, mate, I was just kicking the football around. And, you know, I knew when my lad was a toddler, I'd throw him a ball and he wouldn't stop it with his feet, he'd just pick it up. I thought, he's not going to be a footballer, because in football, you stop it with your feet. And you know, but I used to sort of stay a lot at my nan's when I was younger, because she used to live downtown and all the kids down there, it's like you say, it's like council set, you play up against the wall and that's where you learn it all. Kicking tennis balls around, anything you can kick, you know, that's how you learn it. Really.
I was only allowed a tennis ball in Wirral. That's all we were allowed, because they caused that much damage. The balls, they only give us a tennis ball a break and we used to play. It was madness.
That cost me mum and dad hundreds and hundreds of pounds in neighbours' windows, mate.
So you're at the Shafts, mate.
Yeah.
This is about 79. Am I right?
Yeah, well, it would have been, that's sort of, where are we? Yeah, the Shaftesbury Boys Club really was, till about, when we got to about 17, the manager at the time, he said, you know, you've won the league every year, you're not really getting challenged, so at 17 level, he put us into the under-18 league, right. Because Birkenhead Boys had a very good team at that stage as well, and it was David Reeves, Alan Reeves, Ian Wone, all played professional football, and I used to play for Cheshire with those lads, and it was really good. And we put our team up against them, and we actually beat them. And they weren't happy, because obviously they were a really good team, really good players, and we were like, the kids stood out because we were a year younger than them, but we actually put us in, and we actually went on and won that league.
So at an early age there, you're playing with really good lads straight away, like we said, and then you're playing against a really good standard as well. Yeah. Because them lads you mentioned, they've all gone on to have good careers, haven't they?
Yeah, well, it was around that time really where you started getting the scouts turning up, at the games, around 16, 17, and at that time Sheffield Wednesday had a lot of rooting in the area, and Stoke City, and you know, a couple of phone calls from them, especially Sheffield Wednesday, because obviously I played up front with David Reeves, for Cheshire as well, and we'd actually gone and won like a national championship back then, where you play each team, representative team from around here, would play each other, and we played in the final at Plough Lane and won the game, and you know, I was gutted because I played in every round, and then the final, my first day in work, and I couldn't go to it because it was my first day starting a new job. And when I went in, I said to the boss, and I said, no, I explained, he said, you know what, he said, the company would have seen it as an honour for you. He said, we would have let you go. And I missed the final at Plough Lane, but you know, hey, we won it, that's the main thing.
But there was plenty of finals to come, mate.
I got a trophy out of it still, so. Yeah.
So, I've got you signed for Tranmere, so how did that come about?
It was literally, because obviously Shafts is right next door, isn't it? And scoring lots of goals, and Tranmere were coming over at the time, and it was, I think it was Warwick Rimmer at the time.
Warwick's a legend, didn't he?
But it was only just starting really, that the Tranmere didn't really have a youth set up at that time. It was only just starting, and they come over and he'd watch us, and he come about 3 weeks on a run, and he said, look, you know, 3 years to come over, I've got a big trial going on. He said, can you come over? Went over to Tranmere, and you know, they used to do the trials on the pitch at that time. Yeah. The pitch was a shock. I mean, the Shafts had a better pitch. And basically done the trials, scored a few goals. I hate trials because when you're playing in them, you get played out of position. You don't really know the lads you're playing with, a lot of them. So, but we done all right, and all three of us from the Shafts actually, they asked us to sign there and then.
Brilliant.
And it did. But looking back on it, I probably shouldn't have done it, because my manager at the time at the Shafts said, look, he said, Sheffield Wednesday and Stoke are definitely interested. Yeah. He said, so don't feel pressurised or pushed into it, because they are definitely interested. Sheffield Wednesday especially are interested in you. Went over there, done it, and I thought, shouldn't I? I thought it's on my doorstep, and at the time I was obviously trying to. I had a little baby at the time. I was 16. I was a young dad at 16. Yeah. So I thought, what can I do where it doesn't involve travelling? And because Sheffield and Stoke, it's you got all travelling involved. And obviously with Jean being not well as well, in and out of hospital, I thought that would be the one, and I signed for them. And to be fair, they were at that time you could still play for Tranmere and then go and play for your other club, and that suited me as well, because I was still playing for the Shafts at the time. And then when we were 18, because it was also the end of our era from 10 to 18 at the Shafts, we'd saved up and had a big competition in America to go and play in just in Boston and New England. So we wanted to do that, and Sammy gave me permission. Said, "Yeah, go and enjoy it. You've got to do that. Yeah. These are your friends for the last 10 years of your life. Go and do it." And we went over there, absolutely brilliant time. We were playing their so-called really good teams, but we were battering them. We were putting 6-7 goals past them, and they were not used to getting beat. If you say.
And where's that side? Boston.
We actually went in Boston, but mainly into New England, New Hampshire areas, all around those areas. They're playing all their sorts of state teams, and we were hammering them.
It's a brilliant experience though, when at a young age.
Well, when you go with a load of lads off the floor and the muddy, mate, you can imagine it. And they were trying the bully tactics and all that, and
just
we weren't having any of it. No, they weren't having any of it at all, mate, and we just beat them into the ground, to be honest.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Si, just to say there, you were saying you're a young dad and your wife's got an illness, because this is an important part of your journey, isn't it? Because you're playing really good standard football already. And you're a young dad at 16, and then just tell us a little bit about your missus, mate, because that's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, at the age of 17, she just started, every time she was eating or drinking anything, she just started to get pains, and then within a couple of weeks, the weight was just dropping off her. And I mean, she went down she's only small anyway, she went down from about 8 stone to about 4 stone.
Wow.
So she was taken into hospital, doing all sorts of tests, and it took months to come back. She was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory bowel disease, which it can be really nasty, especially back then. I mean, people who get it now, there's drugs on the market that can help them. But back then it was literally steroids and surgery, so you can imagine steroids are not good on long term, and all the surgery she's had on top. So we were having to deal with that, as well as being a young dad, which at 16, you're a baby yourself still, aren't you? So we were having to deal with that. So trying to concentrate totally on football as well as keep a job.
It must have been hard.
You just pull from pillar to post, because I was literally going into work. If it hadn't been for my family, we'd have really struggled, but my mum and her mum, brilliant, picking kids up. And
it's great you give them a mention, because that's fantastic.
I've got a big family around us, and every one of them mucked in to help us through it all, to be honest. And it was difficult, and it still is difficult, because it's it's never going to go away.
Mate, So with all that's hard, isn't it, mate? I wanted to mention that, because it is hard. So you're going through the football and you're carrying on. So Sheffield Wednesday, you're interested. So you decide to sign for Tranmere?
I signed for Tranmere, and like you say, we only played, it was literally just getting off the ground at the time, so it wasn't really that organised. It was just friendlies every now and again. I played about 5 or 6 friendlies for them, and then we went to America with Sheffield Boys Club. 2-week competition there, loved it. Last game, went up for a header, come down, one of them, lad knocks you, come down, hit me back on rock hard ground, and let's see, 6 months, it's just, they had a problem with me discing me back, and I had to see, they get it manipulated back in, because I was having all sorts of issues with it. And I thought, and during that time I thought, Tranmere didn't get in touch once, so I thought, perhaps is that, the sort of, well, we can't really go down this road with you. You've only played half a dozen friendlies, and all of a sudden we haven't seen you for. But what can you do? And I sort of got a bit disillusioned with football at the time, and that's when it started really going to watch Liverpool again, and it never really kicked off at Tranmere, which a bit sad about, to be honest. But it's a lot of football. It's
Did you think it was a serious injury at the time, Si? As soon as you done it, did you think, oh, it was as bad as what it was? Or?
I remember thinking, when you stood up and you're like, I couldn't straighten my back properly, and I thought, and I was getting pins and needles down my leg.
Right.
Yeah, I was getting pins and needles all down my leg, and every time I stood up or went in a certain area, I could feel the pins and needles again. So I thought, I've got to go. Doctors, they sent me to the osteopath and what have you. And eventually, 6 months later, I was starting to do bits again. But it's one of them. I thought, never gonna go this, never gonna go. No, you get a muscle pull or something like that. A couple of weeks later, you're ready to go again. But this one, couldn't shake it off.
So how did you return back to football? Did you start playing?
Well,
playing?
I started got like you say, started to follow Liverpool really, and then the Brow were at a decent team, and I thought just they were asking me for a while, just come up and play for us, and they were going for the league and what have you. So I went and started playing a game for the Brow. I think I was there about a season and a half, and then I thought I want to get back into it now, give it another go. Gene's illness had settled down a bit, so I thought. And a friend of my dad's, who my dad worked with, he was heavily involved at Asheville at the time. And Asheville had been into me a few times. Can you come over? Lovely little setup, Asheville, isn't it?
Got a lot of time for Asheville. I was a manager there, mate.
Myself, mate. I loved it there, to be honest, really well. And I went across there, and this is when Leeds were in the pump, and I enjoyed it. And I just, my game just got better and better and better. And like you say, they put me straight up front, and I was banging goals in for front for them.
So what league were Asheville in then?
They were in West Cheshire first.
Were they in West Cheshire 1?
Yeah, West Cheshire 1.
But going back there, I've said this on the show before, it was only 2 divisions then, Si, was it?
Yeah. And to be honest, I think the standard, I know we heard Tomo say the other week, he found the standard, and I totally agree with everything he said. I think the first time round there was at least half a dozen teams in that league who would give you
a good game.
Battle night, and they were going to kick lumps out of you. So, that's where I started really getting into it, and I thought, well, this is good, this. And then same thing happened again. I had Sheffield Wednesday turn up again at Asheville, and
so they were still had an interest. They still had an scouts on it.
Yeah, I was getting lots of interest from scout. Even Runcorn would come in for me. Bamber Bridge had come in. So all conference teams and Northern Premier League sides. And Asheville at the time was, they thought, we're going to lose them. We're going to So Asheville are actually talking about starting to put me on a paid contract. And they'd never done that with a player before. But I said, you couldn't really put one player on money and not the rest, because that would really cause a bad atmosphere within the club. So it never went any further. And that season, I scored about 37, 38 goals for Asheville, and I was really enjoying it. And when Everton come in, I went over and done my trials with Everton, scored a couple of goals in that game, and he invited me back, and I played in 2 games for them, in like B games, and against Charlotte, and I scored a couple of goals. And Mickey O'Brien,
Mick O'Brien,
he was like, they are interested. He said, you've done really well there, they're well pleased. But it was right at the end of the season, so it was pretty, wasn't great time. If it'd been at the beginning of the season, you could progress. But let's see, about 2 games of the season ago, mate, I was playing for the Dock on a Sunday, and some lad come right to the back of me and just took me shin bone out, and it was real bad injury.
Just go back to the Everton one, though, So did you find the standard? How did you find the standard? Because you've been playing West Cheshire 1, and that West Cheshire 1 then was probably the strongest that they've ever been for a few years. So that put you in good stead for when you were at Everton.
To be honest, I think the standard in the West Cheshire at that time was really, really good. And when you go and you're playing in with better players and pro players and semi-pro players, I found it quite comfortable to play in there. Some people say when they step up, they find it difficult. I found it the other way, to be honest, because I think you get a little bit more time on the ball. Whereas, in the West Cheshire and those leagues, they've got to hit you. Yeah. And you've got to stay it, aren't you?
And they know who you are. Yeah. And like you said, you scored a lot of goals. So
it's, there's 2 ways of looking at it. I mean, what they are, they're fit. And I think once you get your fitness levels right, if you've got talent, it'll come through, but you've got to get your fitness levels right, otherwise you can't show your talent, can you?
I think the West Cheshire then, though, the teams were really fit because I was going to watch teams on a Sunday then with my dad being into the football, and the Saturday Sunday standard, it was class, wasn't it? It was brilliant.
Oh, yeah, just going back to the early dock days, you know, we had 7 or 8 teams in that league who would all give you the game. Whereas now you look at the Queens and the Dock and then you don't look beyond it, can you?
And then there's a few teams that, but they're the most consistent, aren't they?
Yeah.
Just going back to that then, so when you were at Asheville, were you playing for the Dock as well?
Yeah, I was. It was involved at the Asheville then. It was, do you know the Newsons, Philly Newsons, Terry Newsons? Well, they were involved at Asheville at the time, but they were involved with the Dock as well.
Yeah.
And they were saying to me, you know, come and play for the Dock, we're a good side there. And he did, they were a good side, the Dock. And could you know Kenny Hawks?
Yeah, no, Kenny Hawks,
you know, well, God bless him, you know, he died a couple of years ago, really nice fella, Kenny, but he was a top manager as well, Kenny. And he took me over there and he took me under his wing, Kenny, he loved me to bits. Even till a couple of years ago, he was phoning me once a week, talking, best player I've ever had. I said, and you know, sing for the other lads in there, so he says that to me as well.
But that's brilliant. You play Saturday, Sunday, you're scoring a lot of goals, mate.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you know, you get this injury.
Yeah, it was just pure bad timing, mate, because I was like, you know, I had obviously Sheffield Wednesday looking at me. I had obviously done the trials with Devon, but I'd also been up to Runcorn as well. And it was a fellow called Barry Whitbread. No, Zach Whitbread, who used to play for Liverpool.
Yeah.
It was his dad who was in charge at the time, and Ian Wone had only just left to go to Forest. And he called me up and he said, look, come up and have a go. And went up, had a couple of games, and he was like, look, we want to sign you. He said, but I understand you've got pro teams looking at you. So he said, if things don't work out, you know, give us a call and come and play in the conference. And you know, back then, I mean, it was still earning good money. You know, they were paying decent money at the time. But as I say, it's just one bad injury took all that away, to be honest.
How did it happen? Was it a tackle or was it?
Yeah, it was. To be honest, the lad who done it, he was heartbroken because he knew, you know, obviously. Yeah. No, I was having all sorts of teams looking at me at the time, and it was literally. I'd gone back into defence for some stupid reason. Not
like you, mate.
Yeah, we were 1-0 up with about a minute to go against Mitre, who were a good team.
I remember the Mitre, yeah.
They were good, Scupper and all them, Dillon, they were all playing. And we were going with the league for them, mate. And literally 1-0 up, a minute to go. Ball comes out to the edge of the area. I've just turned and I just tried to slam up the park as far as I could, and as it did, the lad's come across, put his foot up, and I've just whacked the bottom of his foot, and I knew straight away you heard the crack go, shin pad in 2 pieces, and next thing I'm getting carted up to Wirral Park Hospital, and it's unbelievable. And you know what? My dad and my mum had followed me all my career, and that's the first game my dad had missed. Wow. Me playing, ever. Yeah. And he said, because his car broke down, so he walked down to the park, Birkenhead Park, and watched the game there, and the lad broke his leg on the pitch. And my dad said, thank God nothing like that's ever happened to our Simon. And I ended up sitting next to this lad up in A&E, and my dad comes up to pick me up and sees him there, Wow. That's the way it is.
So your family followed you everywhere to watch your side?
Yeah, my mum and dad, we used to play regular, we used to go to competitions in Belgium with the Shafts. We played against Anderlecht and all Belgium, any sort of famous Belgian teams, they entered this competition over there, beat Anderlecht 3-1. Wow. With a load of scallions off the field and knocking in the wood away, and they were like, what's going on here? The Anderlecht game ended up in a big kick-off. A massive kick-off, because they don't get beat over there. They're
not used to it.
No, we went and beat them 3-1, but it wasn't so much the Shafts team, it was a representative side we took over really. It was a lot of the Shafts lads, a lot of the Birkenhead boys lads, and they weren't used to getting beat, so
that's brilliant. But it's great, isn't it great that your family go and watch it and see you scoring goals?
Yeah. My dad never stopped, even after I stopped playing. My dad carried on going. I got tickets. I got tickets for the Liverpool Man United game with a sit-down meal from work and everything. He said to me, Dad, I'll take you over to the match, you go and have a meal and all that. He goes, no, I can't. He said, the Dock are playing in the Cheshire Cup. He pinned me. He pinned me to go to the Dock. So But, you know, he was brilliant. He loved it. And my mum stopped going when I was about 18. She didn't have the same interest in it. I know I said in men's football, but she, right up to 18 at the Shafts, they were there every game.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, how long did it take you to get over your leg, Shane?
Put me out, probably, I was in 14 weeks in a cast.
Yeah.
And then it was a good three months after that, so practically all season, mate. It
Because
really was,
breaks 10 days are not as quick to recover and as good with the operations as they are now, are they?
No, it's moved on a lot now to what it was then. But you might as well say it's the season. I got playing again that season, but
did you actually got playing?
Yeah, but no. Well, I broke at the end of the season, so the following season. So you know, it was midway through. I started getting fit again, and to be fair, I was getting back to a reasonable standard again, but I just felt as if maybe a yard of pace had gone after that.
Did you have to adjust your game with that yard of pace? Did you think, well, I'll have to be a step ahead in the brain?
Yeah, you do. You start thinking about things a little bit more because, you know, instead of just knocking it around the lad and running past them, you think, well, you're not going to get away from them now, so maybe you're just there as you're going round and you give them a nudge or so if you put them
sharp elbows you've got
to be, because they're going to do you, so you've got to make sure. Don't get me wrong, I'd never go into it anyone.
No, I know that, mate.
But I'd always make sure they knew he was there. Let's put it that way, because they do the same with me.
So you're coming back now, mate.
Yeah.
And the Poulton Vics.
Yeah, Skillo basically.
Yeah.
It was, obviously he was involved at the dock, and he said, look, at the time at Asheville, in the early days we had a good team, but by the time I come back from my injuries, some of those players had gone and moved on, and I tell you who was there with me actually, he was a really good player, Johnny Norman. Yeah. And he was, I don't know where he went from. I don't know whether he went to Heswell and then went to Morecambe, I can't remember, but I know Jim Harvey at the time, he was looking at me and Johnny to go down to Morecambe.
Yeah.
But it never pieced it out, to be honest. I know he went later, but he was a good player. But Skiller was saying to me, he said, look, the Vics are getting a good side together there now. He said, they'll pay you a few quid if you want to go. And Asheville was struggling at that time.
Yeah.
I know, even though there was some good players left, the majority of the early team had sort of moved on, or some of them had retired and didn't have the same feeling there. So I went to the Vics.
And a fresh start at the Vics.
Yeah.
So you get there. So the Vics are a big club at the time, aren't they? They were a fantastic club, wasn't it?
Yeah. I loved it because even when I was at Asheville and you were playing at the Vics, everyone would say the pitch straight away, wouldn't it? I played on Wembley, wasn't it? It was just old Josh. That's the name you were looking for the other week.
And his brother, I remember his brother's name, Brian. He used to always watch the reserves as well. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and he just had it like Wembley, and I just on that pitch, it's just no excuses.
It was fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and you could see when I went in, I thought this team is a step up to what Asheville had at the time, and they were growing, and Alvin was a real top manager.
Was Alvin the manager then? Yeah,
Alvin. Yeah. Well, he'd been trying to get me for a while, not the season before.
Yeah.
I remember playing him at Asheville, and it was literally quite a close game. About 5 minutes to go, I picked the ball up about 25 yards out, and it's a half volley right to the top corner, and I beat them 1-0.
Yeah.
And he come up to me after the game. He goes, "You shouldn't be approaching you," like he said, but he said, "You're interested?" I said, "No." That was one of them. It was Skillo who talked me into it in the end. But every time I played against the Vics, I always had a good game against them, and it was a little bit of a local derby, wasn't it? And so I decided to go there.
That's a Wallasey derby, that, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
it's a Wallasey derby.
It was great. You get about 1,000, 2,000 people around the pitch, wouldn't you? It was superb. Like it's so that's what made me convinced in the end. Skillo.
So you go into the Vics team. Who were the players in the Vics team then, Si?
Oh, you had Tony Clark, full-back, he'd been around, and all the semi-pro teams. Tony, Ian Murphy, the two Scouse lads actually, and they were top players in the day, mate. You had Nicky Dillon, Stevie Jones, Ian Maljerison, lads you might have not heard of, but they were all really good lads. Paul Price,
Great side.
Yeah, they were a really, really good side, but Alvin was constantly bringing new players in all the time. I mean, I'd look back at some of the programmes for the finals, and there was such a big turnover of players over a short time. I couldn't even remember some of the names. No, you're like, I was in a final with them, and like, who is he? I can't even envisage him, like, because he was constantly bringing them in until he got all the players he wanted. Yeah, and it was. But you could see we were growing, and at the time, obviously, Leeds were the top dogs for years, weren't they? Yeah. And we played them up at the Cheshire Cup at Vauxhalls. And I remember it was a real horrible night up at Vauxhalls, and I thought it's going to be, we get a decent crowd up here, because you got there, mate, it was 11 deep all around the pitch, you literally couldn't move. I remember the fella from Vauxhall saying, we played the league, they play in Zella Higher, and he said, we can't get crowds like this. Yeah. There was thousands there, and they beat us 2-1 in a game that we absolutely tore them to bits the whole game with Jimmy Kelly. Yeah. Just nicked the goals on the break, on 2 occasions. Yeah. In a game we dominated them. But we knew at that game, that was the game where we knew we've got these. Yeah. And we thought we're
a little bit of a turning point.
Yeah, we knew, and you could see them looking, thinking, these are good. These are a good side. And then a week later we played them in the league at the Vics and beat them 4-0. And I thought, and then from then we just took over.
You took over.
Yeah, and
that's a big thing, that taking over Leeds, because Leeds were the established big club for years, weren't they?
They were. And then we started getting the lads from Leeds, leaving Leeds to come to the Vics, which is always a good sign, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's really where it was. But we knew in that game that we'd sort of take, even though we got beaten in that game, we knew we'd turn the tables on them.
So you're playing for the Vics side, scoring goals. Yeah. Was there a partner up front?
There was a few actually. Stewie Jones, Nicky Dillon, Ratta, Davey Galloway, all really good players, mate. Stewie was one of those lads who never scored from 2 or 3 yards. Stewie was always a blockbuster from 25 yards. Ratta was always...
Did Ratta have a nickname?
One chance, yeah. Self-appointed title, by the way, Dave. But he was a great lad, actually. A really good player. Nicky Dillon was a really good player as well, but he was having a lot of knee problems at the time, and so
I remember Dillon. He was there when I was there.
Yeah. Really good player. But we had Scupper come in then, and lots of experience. Scupper. He was great for the changing room. Really was. So
he was a unit in goal, wasn't he?
Yeah. We just had a great team, but we had a great changing room as well. If you know what I mean?
Big part.
Paul Conman, Conman.
Yeah, Conman.
We just brilliant lads, mate. They really are. Lacey, but Paul Lacey and Big Mark Jones, and we just...
And this team's very successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a little trip to a few other places, wasn't there?
Oh God, yeah. I think the 98 season's got to go down as our best, because we just we had a clean sweep of all the trophies, the league, the Cheshires and everything. And then obviously we entered the Carlsberg Cup, which it's a big competition. And something to any amateur team really, but there's thousands of teams entered it, and we had a good run, and we just kept on going, and then all of a sudden you see in Anfield, there's a semi-final, you think, hang on, we're not far away from this. Yeah. And we actually went down to St Austell. We had to play Heswell on a Saturday. We won that game, straight onto a coach, down to Cornwall. Got up the following morning, played St Austell on what you can only describe. I mean, they're in a big league down there as well, St Austell, and they paid a lot of money, but it was like a farmer's field. It was just terrible.
Wasn't what you're expecting.
No, when you're playing on the Vics every weekend and you play, it was terrible, but we managed to beat them. Davey Galloway, one chance. I set him up, by the way. He got the winner. Yeah. And let's see, with about 5 minutes to go, the worst miss I've ever had in my whole life, mate. It was... ball gets in on the back, I think it was Ian Dorgan, gets in on the byline, pulls the ball back from me, I've got a yard out, just got to tap it in, and as I've gone to tap it, it's hit a bobble, it's run up my leg, hit me in the chin and got over the bar, and I'm like, the day's gone, now I'm dead. And he literally broke.
I can't believe you missed the chance. I've never missed many, mate.
And I couldn't believe I missed this. He couldn't do it if it tried, but they broke and hit the bar. And they all looked at me and said, like, you got away with it. But we were at Anfield then for the semi, which was great.
So who did you play at Anfield, mate?
Eastleigh.
Eastleigh?
Yeah, Eastleigh. And obviously they've gone on and done things, haven't they?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, to be honest, it was a bit of a scrappy game because you go into the game, but it was great because there was loads of the local lads, or even from other teams, all come to watch you, and there was about 7,000 or 8,000 people on the cop, all cheering you on, like, so it's great.
But it must have been fantastic for you, like you said before, because you were a Red and you've been going a match for years.
All I ever wanted to do, mate. I played at Tranmere, I played at Goodison, I'd never played at Anfield. I thought the chances passed me by. And luckily at 28, I got the chance, and I didn't score the goal, but I set the winner up for Timmy Foreman.
So you're still involved?
Yeah.
What was the experience like though, mate? What was it like walking out the tunnel and in the changing rooms?
It's absolutely brilliant, mate, because I mean, from a young boy, that's all you want to do, isn't it? If you love football, you just want to be involved in football, and it's like you see how the other half do it, and how professional the setup is, and to what you used to playing in, and you kill for it.
And you think you're doing things right, and then you see what they're doing.
It's just levels and levels, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you see how good they are, and it's but to live the life of a professional for a few days, it was
brilliant,
lovely. But we all stayed at the Village Hotel the day before. It's a bit of a funny story actually, and Alvin was like, I want you to enjoy it, he said, but you've got to be professional. He said we were all in that restaurant having something to eat. He said, you can stay down, you can have one drink, and he said, I want you back in your room at 9 o'clock. He said, so, but Alvin was a bit superstitious. I shared with him earlier on the round, and then he wouldn't change it then, so I had to share with the manager all the way through. So I mean, I'm not a drinker anyway.
Yeah.
But he said to the rest of the lads, he said, make sure you're in bed at 9 o'clock. So I've got to go up at 9 o'clock because Alvin's in there, and so get my head down. 1 o'clock in the morning, I get woken up by all this racket in the next room. I won't tell you who the lads are, but two of the lads I would only describe as a party going on in the other room, and I'm like, shit, if Alvin sees this,
he's going to go mad.
I thought to turn around and see if he's asleep, like to turn around there, he is sitting up in bed with a pen and paper like that.
Doing a bit of scribbling.
Yeah, those guys didn't play.
Oh, that's brilliant, mate. So you win at Anfield, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the next round's at Wembley.
Yeah, the final at Wembley, then we played Corby. It was brilliant. Carlsberg, it took us down we stayed at the Plaza on Hyde Park.
Wow.
The whole weekend, everything was paid for. Big do after the game at the Cafe Royale.
Yeah.
The game itself, I think you're that nervous going in, you can't get beat. I remember Ian Dornan and the son saying to me, he's like, Daddy, we can't lose, just got to win. I said, yeah, we'll win. There's like lots of banter going on between the two teams, proper giving each other
in the tunnel.
Yeah.
And that's quite a big open tunnel there at Wembley, the old Wembley, isn't it?
Yeah, the old one, yeah. So I remember in that tunnel, we were literally...
Few words said.
Yeah. They have a big Scottish community, Corby.
Oh, do you? Yeah.
Massive Scottish community down there. So when we come out, I mean, they brought about 5,000 or 6,000 fans down because they're only half an hour. We only had a couple of thousand from Wallasey, but they had the whole tier at the bottom there. It was all full, and they were giving us it on the way out. But it just gives you extra incentive to go and beat them, doesn't it?
You must have felt confident though. You just mentioned the player Ian Dordan, who I know. You must have had good lads, good changing rooms.
Yeah.
Felt confidence.
The whole team, mate, it was strong all the way through. You go through the corner side with Scupper in goal, and then you've got Paul Lacey. You name me a better centre half there, mate.
He's off the woody though, Lacey, so it's
he's a great lad, isn't he?
Yeah, brilliant.
Fabulous footballer. And you just went right through the whole team. I mean, it wasn't just a spine. Every player in that team was one of the top players around there at the time. So it was great. The game itself, first half.
Do you remember much about the game? Was it bitty?
I remember going on the pitch. I remember you used to watch the cup final as a kid, and you're thinking these professional footballers going down with cramp. I thought, you think they'd be fit.
Yeah, do you think they'd be fit?
And then you walk on the pitch and you walk on a posh carpet and it's like spongy.
Yeah.
It was a bit like that. I'm thinking you can understand why that's so to get a lot of tiredness in the legs, and it was a bit like that. The pitch, I found it very, it was immaculate, but it was. Was it
any bigger than anything you played on? Or does it just look big because
I think it looks big
because of Wembley?
Yeah, because obviously the way it's surrounded with you had the track back then as well, didn't you? And the game was scrappy first half, and it was really peaceful. I thought under normal circumstances, I think we'd have beat them a lot more comfortably.
Yeah.
We were a bit nervous, and But,
obviously you're going to be on a big occasion.
But on about 70 minutes, Alvin made a couple of substitutions. I mean, he brought Paul, come on, and little Robbie Granville, you know Robbie?
Yeah, no, Robbie.
And they turned the game for us. They just, and then Stewie Jones, that's it, one chance. He gets the first one. And then Stewie Jones, about 5 minutes later, he slams a 25-yard free kick in.
Wow.
And then I thought, I'm not getting left out here, mate. So I got the ball out on the touchline, cut in and bent one into the far corner from 20 yards.
What's that like, scoring at Wembley?
Oh, my head exploded. I just got mobbed, mate. I was knackered. I was absolutely knackered. I had nothing left in my legs. They were dead. But I know everyone's jumping on you. And it was brilliant because we knew 3-0. They're not coming back from that.
Yeah. So did you go up the magical steps?
We did, yeah. It was brilliant. All our wives were all put on in a box just at the side.
That's fantastic,
photographs. So it was that's what you live for, that,
and what was the trophy like itself?
It was crystal, big crystal one. It was. Whoever designed that, he's got no idea what football was like that, because you just wouldn't. Especially from Birkenhead. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a lovely trophy, but I thought, that's going to get broke before the end of the night, that.
Yeah. So you said, did you have celebrations after it? Did you go anywhere?
Well, we had a bloody big do at the Cafe Royal.
Cafe Royal?
Yeah, it was a big posh place in London, and then both teams went there. It must have been horrible for them, but to be fair, they were a great bunch of lads. Once they all got drunk and all that. And all the FA, that Graham Kelly was there, and he wasn't too popular. Pat Jennings was there presenting. I
seen a little photo of that, Pat Jennings, he was a legend, wasn't he?
Oh, he's great, Pat Jennings. He actually come down to the Vics, actually, when we actually got through to the final, he come down and done a little bit of training. And that
fantastic, that.
Lovely fella. Hands like that.
Like shovels.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's a proper gent, really proper gent.
So that's a brilliant story, that, mate. So, when you're there at the Vics, were you playing for the Dock still then, or?
I was between the. At one time I was at the Queen's for a bit, and then later on at the Vics, I'd stopped playing on a Sunday for a bit, but then I went back to the Dock later on in my career.
Yeah.
When I was sort of know where I was coming to the end, I wanted to finish at the Dock because.
Not many people have done that, Si.
No, I remember Binksy saying to me in the change room when I come back, he said, we're going to get the priest in to do the exorcism.
That's Binksy for a great shout, yeah.
Do you know what? He's one of the best lads. You're going into a battle, you'd want to take that lad in with you, because he's just a brick wall. And little Mackin as well, it's the same, you just run through brick walls for you, mate.
Yeah. I remember playing, I was at the Woodchurch then, and I played against you at the Dock, and you had a great side, and you started dominating, didn't you?
We did, yeah. It was always a tough game up at the Woody, though. That big line, all giving you loads of it. Yeah. He was the fella who used to sit on the chair behind the goal.
Larry.
Oh, there was a lad. He's a bit of a gangster in his day. Can't think of his
Which
name.
one?
Yeah, but I remember the ball goes under his.
I'll find out that one for you.
I can't remember his name, but he's like, gives the ball, give him a bit of stick back, like.
Yeah.
He said, don't you know who he is? He said he's one of the biggest gangsters up here. I said, oh well, I've said it now, haven't I?
That's it. So you're playing for the Vics, yeah?
Yeah.
And then you signed for Vauxhall's.
Yeah, to be honest, this was
when
year later.
Alvin transit?
Yeah.
He went to Vauxhall's, didn't he?
Yeah, Alvin had obviously Vauxhall. He wanted to go up, and obviously the Vics at the time wouldn't make the financial move, so he had no choice but to go to Vauxhall's. But he wanted to take half a dozen with him, and I was like that. I didn't like where Vauxhall's was, to be honest. It was out the way.
Yeah.
For me, it's a bit of a journey in the middle of nowhere. You get poor crowds as well, which is not good. Well, the facilities are great and the people up there were really nice, but it was just where it was.
Yeah.
But I decided to go, but I was just starting to have my first lot of knee trouble then, and I could feel, I couldn't get into a proper sprint, and I knew I needed surgery. So
you were still playing on it even though you needed surgery?
Yeah, well, even the year when we played at Wembley, that's when it started.
Oh, what, even that?
Yeah, I was kicking in then. I was having to ice pack it and strap it up to get through games. And he looked at me and he adored it. He didn't have all his ankles strapped. I'd have my knees strapped. It was like the walking wounded, mate. And I thought, no, this is... But the following year, it really got to the stage where I couldn't even get to the next game. So I had to have surgery on my cartilage fix that.
So you went up to Vauxhall's.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what happened up there?
Well, I got to the stage where I said to them, "No, it would work." I said, "I'm struggling to get here," because that obviously they play in the higher league, so there's a lot of
travelling, yeah.
And I'm saying to my manager in work, and the manager said, "Well, we can't just give you time off it, willy-nilly to go where you like." So I just said to Hayes, "No, thank you, but no thanks."
I think to bring this point in as well, Shai, is it's not just the travelling, you've got your missus as well.
Well, yeah, we had all that going on as well, yeah. So it was difficult. Don't get me wrong, Vauxhall was a nice setup, but I liked the Vics.
Yeah.
I did. It was on my doorstep.
Yeah.
I knew all the management, the committee, and it was convenient for me.
Brilliant, mate, yeah. So you come to the end, so you go back to the Vics, you come to the end of Vauxhall's, you go back to the Vics, and then what happened then? Were you still successful, the Vics? Because they'd lost a few with Alvin going.
Yeah, well, Chris Camden had took over then.
Yeah.
And he brought a few lads in himself. But, you know, I was totally aware, no, but it's when you're into your 30s a little bit, you can feel you're like slowing down.
Yeah.
I managed to get playing again and get myself in. We won the league, won the Cheshire and that with them. And I thought, it's only going one way now. Once the wheels start coming off, they start coming off. And unfortunately, then we had this situation with my daughter as well. So
what time's that around, Si?
It would have been around, would have been 32, 33.
I've got to be honest with you, when playing against you, and then I went to Vics with Cammy, I was I'd only heard about it, I didn't know much about it, so if you want to talk about it.
Well, to be honest, mate, my daughter was 16 at the time, and never had the day of school in her life, and she just got a chest infection. That's all we thought it was, chest infection, and then it wouldn't go, so we took her to the doctors, and he looked and listened to the chest, and he said, "No, she's got pneumonia." Couldn't get rid of it, and so took her to hospital, and they found out she had lymphoma. So it was then it was over to Alder Hay, and just months and months of treatment, but unfortunately it didn't work out.
Wow. So as well as your missus, mate, and then your daughter, and you've got a good established playing career, I just think that shows a lot about your character as well.
Yeah, I used the football as to get me sort of
like an outlet. Like an outlet.
It's the one thing that doesn't make me remember of what you were dealing with at home. It just took your mind off it completely. Yeah. And that's what I used football back then, was to do that. Was just to make sure I could actually enjoy myself a little bit still. And then you can go back to your problems then later on, can't you?
Going and playing and forgetting your troubles for a bit and scoring goals and then.
Yeah. So, but I knew then. I mean, obviously, you come to the end of your time, aren't you? And obviously, you get hit with.
And you've had a few bad injuries as well, haven't you?
Broken legs, broken my ankle, broken hands. Since I stopped playing, I've had 2 surgeries to fix broken noses. That's diving evidence. You know what? I've never broken a bone playing rugby. Yeah. But I've broken all sorts.
Playing football.
Mate, yeah. But I've had two. I've had a hernia surgery, 2 broken noses.
There's probably too many of them goal celebrations.
Yeah. People are after me, starting to lay one on me. Yeah. So it's I had a good career, to be honest, at the standard I played at. Really did, and I enjoyed every minute.
I'm playing with some great players there, so
I really, it's difficult, and of course I played with that many great players. Trying to pick one is difficult, but I know that's going to be.
It will be one of the questions, yeah. So at 35, you step back in and you're out the dockhouse.
Yeah, it's just basically I said to them, look, I know where it's, at the age I am now, but I can still score goals, and I still score goals for them. But I just said I'll just sign a form, and if you're ever short,
I'll play.
I'll come in. And then
Brilliant.
I went down and played my last game for them at the age of 37 against the Bitston down there.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done it because I was to Florida 3 weeks later, and I went over on my ankle, didn't I? And the biggest lad for the bit, he fell on me and got strapped. So I ended up with breaking my bones in my foot and my ankle. And walking out Florida like that, limping
around Florida.
I thought she's going to kill me.
That's
going to come and pick me up from the hospital. You only went to watch them.
Famous last words.
I shouldn't have done.
Why are you taking your bag?
Well, he just took the bag in the back of the car.
Just in case.
Yeah.
So, What's it like being a centre forward, mate? And how would you describe yourself as a player?
To be honest, early doors, I was a left winger, and centre forward. Yeah, I did enjoy it because I enjoyed scoring goals. But you'd have a bit of a target as well because every defender wants to kick you, don't they? As you know.
I've kicked you a few times.
Yeah, so I've played against some lads who want to play football. Would you get played against some lads who don't want to play football, who just want to rugby tackle you?
Yeah, but when you're scoring goals, mate, people, the famous word is give them a reducer or, try and stuff, get them out the game. So you must have had a lot of that. But I always remember you being very, very physically tough as well, and obviously you must have been mentally tough with everything we've been through. So
aggressive. I could say I had an eye for goal, and I was aggressive the way I played because the lads were going to kick you, so I was going to make sure that I was going to be out-muscled, and that's what you've got to do. Make sure whatever you do, wherever you play on the pitch, just put it in.
Win your battle.
Yeah, win your battle, and do it for your team, and that's what you.
Is that any advice you give to young players playing up front? Is don't lose that aggression.
Definitely. At the end of the day, you normally find the average centre half's going to be taller than you, so you've got to find ways of out-muscling them. I used to much prefer playing against the tall lads than the smaller lads because the smaller lads had a lower sense of gravity and they turn quicker. Whereas the big lads, once they know the turn, by the time they turned, you were away. Yeah. So, but I'd always say to any young lad, put in, do the best you can. It doesn't matter what your ability is. Put the effort in, and you'll get it back. Yeah, you'll get it all back. But if you don't put it in, you won't get it back. I
think a lot of these shows that we've been doing, mate, the efforts and attitude is a big key thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And I know the likes of your era and the players you play with, they all had great attitudes, didn't they? All wanted to win in their own right, and it didn't matter who you were playing against, did it?
Well, Ian Doran was the classic. Want to win. He was just on a pitch. He could be a nightmare at times because he just. But that's the way he motivated himself. He'd moan, and he'd get himself proper angry, and that's the way he dealt with it. I was the other way. Yeah. I wasn't one to go down and get on other people's backs. I just wanted to concentrate on my own game. But Ian was the other way. He needed that anger to drive himself.
To spare him on, And
it just depends. Everyone's different, aren't they?
So, what was the best game you were ever involved in, mate?
Well, there's a few games. As a kid, definitely beat Anderlecht. In Belgium because I scored and belted against them. So that was a big game because obviously it's such a big name, isn't it? Yeah. As an adult, obviously playing at Wembley.
Wembley or Anfield, that's what I was thinking then.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Because Anfield for me it's just the holy grail for me. Yeah. I love it. It's where I've spent most of my life. So yeah, Anfield, Wembley. But in terms of, that's for the team, in terms of what the best game I've ever had, probably playing for the Vics when we drew away against the team, Lincoln United, who were Northern Premier League side. They're a really good team, and they were one of the favourites to win it. And 3-1 down at half time, like, oh shit, this is going to be an uphill task, but we were making chances the second half. Come out and they hit 4 goals and we beat them 5-4. Wow. And it was just like a basketball game.
And a brilliant game to be involved in.
So from a personal point of view, to score 4 and win that game was great, but also, to win the game 5-4 as well.
Fantastic.
And then against Camelot. So
the Lairds Vics must have been decent.
Yeah, well, we when we knew we sort of overtaken them, we put about 7 goals past them and I scored 5, and it was one of those games where it was just hitting it from 20 yards and it was going in, and it would be over the fence, but every one of those shots was just going in. So from a personal point of view, they were the big games where.
Okay, mate, who's the best player you'd ever come up against?
That's difficult. At the level we played at, I'd say. Got to go with Tomo, to be honest. I think Kevin Tomo, Ian Doran, Paul Lacey, those sorts of players, they were fabulous footballers to be honest, and good lads. But I think Ian Doran just pips it.
I actually come into the Ian Doran bracket because I played against him for the Woody when he was at the Queen's, and he had it for me. So.
Really good lad.
I'm sure he'll get a few more mentions on this show as well from our era.
Kevin Sommer wasn't far behind, to be fair. He was top draw. Tomo, I tend to play against Tomo, but later on we played together. We played representative sides with each other as well. He was a great lad as well.
Yeah,
that's
fantastic.
what I like about Tomo. He's not a big head or nothing like
No.
that. He's just, he's a real good lad. Yeah.
So, any regrets, mate?
Only one. If I could avoid that tackle.
Yeah, if you can avoid that tackle, yeah.
But no, to be honest, mate, all I can do is the level you play at, try to be the best you can be at that level, and that's what I've done. I just wanted to make sure when I did hang my boots up that I had as many trophies in the locker as possible.
And scored as many goals as you had as well, mate.
Yeah.
So, I know you won't like to go on about it, mate, but you've had some setbacks in your career there. Yeah. So, looking back, like, and you're an inspiration to people who are coming through now, footballers. How many things would you, not just off the park, but on the park as well with your injuries, and you've just kept going, so?
Yeah. To be honest, it's the old saying about life's a roller coaster, you've got to get on and ride it. And unfortunately, I have had lots of setbacks, but you can't just wallow in them. You've got to just keep going. And
that's a great bit of advice.
You've got to make the best of what you've got, and that's all you can do, really.
Fantastic.
I'd love to have had it easier, but unfortunately,
it didn't work out that way, mate.
No.
So, what do you see happening in the future for Simon Lewis?
I'd like to think somewhere. I've got to go in and get me knee done again. I'm waiting on an operation to get I've got a partial knee replacement. When I get that done, I would like to get back into football, even if it's coaching kids. I know what you do is brilliant. I love what you're doing. I've been asked a couple of times if it was interested in taking one of the Shafts teams and do what our manager's done with us and say something like that would be great. But it's difficult because obviously with Jean's illness, that's still ongoing. It's trying to, because you know yourself the amount of time it takes, and you have to give up a lot of time, don't you?
Yeah, and the unsociable hours. So when you've worked all day and then you got to go.
So it's difficult because a lot of people, when they're going home to rest and going home and still doing lots of running around. So it's difficult, but I mean that's where I would love it to go, but I don't know.
The only thing I could say to that is, you must have, as a centre forward, scoring all them goals. You've got a lot of knowledge how to move around the box, to your finishing skills, because it's an art, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's an art, and I think you'd be brilliant to pass on them skills, mate, and your knowledge. Yeah.
It's something I would love to do at some point, is get your hands on a load of kids like you have done, and pass on the information.
That'd be fantastic.
It must be great just to see lads go on and then do well, and then.
Yeah, that's the best part of coaching. That's the most addictive part, when you talk to someone and you get them going, and then you see the big improvements, and there's no more. You get like an inner glow. It's brilliant.
You've played a massive part in what you've achieved, then, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I think you get a lot of pleasure out of that. You've got to.
Well, Shag, unfortunately, that's come to the end. It's the final whistle, mate.
Okay,
it's been great talking to you, and great having you on the show, mate.
Cheers, mate.
And honest to God, superb story, mate, and absolute legend on the Wirral and the goals you scored. Yeah. So thanks very much, mate.
Yeah,
thanks very much. So can you please subscribe to YouTube, hit the like button, and make sure you watch the future shows. Okay, we're on Insta, Facebook, and Twitter. Really enjoyed that show. Thanks for everyone. Keep watching. See you soon.